Hi there. It's early evening. The daylight is fading. It's time to check our sourdough starter. Let's see what we have. If you'll notice, it's bubbling nicely. Now, this is a brand new starter. And what you'll learn with your own starter is that the first few times you make it, you're not going to get a lot of bubbly action. It really helps when you're starting out to seed it with some Fleischmann's yeast or any sort of dried yeast. A good place to buy yeast cheap in bulk quantities, meaning like a pound, is a restaurant supply company. They usually sell to the general public. You don't have to be a professional restaurateur to get into the places that I go to, at least. So it helps to add some in. You want to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Long term, as this matures and ripens, it will still be your sourdough. But right now, let's help ourselves out. Let's do a good rising bread, and let's start to make some dough. Now, the first thing we're going to do is keep out the gallon of sourdough starter that we began with this morning. So, I have the crock. We're going to pour as carefully as we can. A gallon of starter back into the crock. We'll cover that. We'll take it back to the spring, and that will just sit there until the next bake day, whether that's in 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, or a month. You just let it sit, you let it ripen, and then on the day before your next bake day, you bring it back to life the way we did this morning. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to be making 2 different kinds of bread. The first bread is called 50-50. It's half whole wheat, half bread flour. The whole wheat I'll be using is a commercial whole wheat flour, coarsely ground from the Midwest. The bread flour is Gold Medal's Better for Bread. You can find it in most supermarkets. If you buy it at a restaurant supply store, as I do, it comes in 50-pound bags, and it's called All Trumps. It's All Trumps, T-R-U-M-P-S. It's bromated, it's unbleached, it's a hard winter wheat with a very high gluten content. And that's precisely what you want for really good bread. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be using the dough trough for this. And I'm going to take some oil, just any kind of vegetable oil. You put some in. We're going to coat the wood. We're going to rub it into the sides of the wood to help prevent the dough from sticking to the wood. Now it will, but this helps keep it from getting into the grain and the pores as much as it would otherwise. It doesn't take much, just enough to coat it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our whole wheat flour. Now this is going to be a learning experience from this morning. When if you'll recall, I added the starter, actually the potato water, way too fast to the flour, and it became very lumpy. This time, we're going to try and do it right. So I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double handfuls of flour. Next, I'm going to put in a small double handful, in fact I'm going to put some back, of sugar, just to give it that fertilizer kick. Then I'm going to put in a slight bit, say a couple of tablespoons of salt. Now, When I mix my bread dough, I start out with the specialty flours. Specialty flours meaning the flour that's not the majority flour in the bread. Of course, if you're doing all whole wheat or all bread flour, then you have to go ahead and just use your flour from the beginning. But, for example, with a 50-50, even though half of it's going to be bread flour, half of it's going to be whole wheat, I like to start with the whole wheat first. If I'm making rye bread, I start with the rye first. If I'm making pumpernickel, I'll start with the rye first. It's just tradition with me, the way I do it, is to start with the specialty flours first. Now, we have the flour in, and this time we're going to pour the starter in easily, just a little bit at first. You want to get the flour wet. We're going to add more. Again, the key is not to overwhelm the flour with too much starter at first. You want to start slow, mix it in. This is where the joy of bread making really comes to life. The tactile sense of mixing and kneading your dough is truly beyond compare. I have nothing against bread machines. I think they're great for people to get fresh bread. But there's nothing like the tactile experience of having your hands in the dough. Okay, now we're going to add some more starter. Quite a bit more, actually. And I'm going to add some more whole wheat. Now you're going to be wondering, just how much flour is this man using? The answer is you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Which is not very helpful, I understand. But that, again, is part of the joy of baking, the joy of discovery in this sense, to figure out what works for you. You can see the nice thing about this type of trough is that as I'm mixing in, because there are no straight sides to this, because the sides curve into the bottom, it follows the natural curve of my fingers as I'm mixing and kneading the dough. This is a wonderful trough, perfect for bread making. Now we're going to start adding the bread flour. Again, by the double handfuls. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's start with this. The only problem with a trough like this is that it's rounded on the bottom as well. And so it has a tendency, as you can see, to sort of shake like a boat in the water. I have some short pieces of 2x4 under here to prop it up. On the edge of the table I actually have a C-clamp to tie it down. I can't get a C-clamp here to the middle, so it's going to shake a little bit, but again that comes with the territory. And ever so often you can just stop, push the 2x4 back underneath. It's looking good. Smelling good. Let's add some more bread flour. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see how this works. The goal is to get a very elastic dough, and that's where the gluten comes in. The high gluten content provides the elasticity that makes for a good quality bread. Now you can see how it's starting to hold together. I once had a man tell me that his bread was hard and tough. He just didn't think he was kneading it long enough. He knew something was wrong. So I asked him, well, how long are you kneading it? He said, oh, about 45 minutes. Well, that told me all I needed to know about why his bread was coarse and tough. He was kneading it way too long. It doesn't take that long to knead, especially when you've been mixing it as long as I have. This evening, we've already been doing this for about 10 minutes. And it won't take much longer. You can see how it's starting to hold together. I actually could have added more starter. I'm going to have some starter left over. But by this point I don't like to add starter because it's really too late to mix in the liquid. The dough at this point is no longer absorbing water the way it would earlier. You see what I do is I push down with one hand, I roll it over, and then take both hands and push down. We'll do that again. Actually, it's not always a single hand. You can do it with a single hand, fold it over, and push. Fold it over, push, fold it over, push. With the two-handed method, you can really get down into the dough. Again, notice how the dough is starting to take shape. It's pulling away from the sides of the dough box. It's forming one single large lump of dough. What you want is you want it to spring back when you touch it. And it's starting to spring back. This is it. This is our dough. Again, we could have more. I don't think this will completely fill up the dough box by morning. Now, I cover the dough with a cloth. There's no lid to this type of dough box, as there are to fancier dough boxes that are made with boards and dovetail together. What we do is simply take a cloth, a towel. I have one right here. I'm going to step off camera for a second. We cover it. Setting in a warm place is not very possible, but it's not very cold yet out now. It'll probably get down to the 40s tonight. This building is not heated, why I said it's not possible. I'm going to put it over to the side, keep it off the floor, put it on the dough table. It'll be here all night long, and tomorrow we'll come back and see what we've got. Now, stay with me because we're going to be doing the whole wheat flour made by David and Levina High.